Hello there. Hi Facebook Live. Hi Brandless community. I am so happy for all of you to tune in today with us. I would love for any of you that are joining us to pop up an emoji, tell us where you're tuning in from, because we want to know more about you. So let's actually head over here. This is some of our other products. And today we're actually going to be meeting with Peter. So Peter is our resident expert on all things for the kitchen. And and tell us a bit about you.
So I came to Brandless and I love the brand, I love the product. Particularly, I love the knives, and that's what we're really going to focus on today.
Yeah, so we're going to start off by kind of showing you all of our assortment of knives that we have here at Brandless. Then he's going to lead us through, yes, these are all the knives, and then he's going to kind of lead us through how to properly take care of them, how to hold them, and then finally at the end we're going to kind of have like an unveiling of our new knife that we have.
We're going to do that today?
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool.
He's excited.
Okay,
I'm excited.
We're going to start off right over here. We have our 4 knives that we have in our assortment right now. Starting with the steak knife. Steak knife, everyone should have probably at least 4 steak knives. They're great for not only eating steak, but any kind of protein, vegetables. You should definitely have it in your kitchen, specifically for serving. And I know everyone knows that, but just wanted to point that out. Second, we have our paring knife. Paring knife is a great utility knife. It is perfect for small jobs, doing garlic and shallots and cutting off herbs from the stems and just small work, anything that you need that you want to get really close to. We then go to our chef's knife. Chef's knife is, again, the workhorse. These last 3, the chef's knife, the bread, and the paring knife, are really the total ultimate knives you should have in your assortment. The chef's knife is great for all your large cutting jobs. So when you're cutting larger vegetables, actually perfect for mincing herbs, because you get the rocking motion, and we're going to walk through that later with the knife itself. And last is our bread knife. Now, what's special about this bread knife actually is the way that it's serrated. So it's serrated with scalloped edge versus, I don't know if you can see on here, and we'll go into more detail as we go through the demo. There's more of like a pointed serration versus the scallop serration. So what's great about that is you'll get less crumb coming off of the bread as you cut it. And I have another little trick that I can show you when we start cutting through the bread.
Are most bread knives shaped that way? Or
I would say about half are. And one thing actually that's a good point to bring up, when you look at the assortment here and you compare it to what else is out there, it's amazing that we can offer these amazing knives at $3. I don't mean to sound like an infomercial, but when I first used them, I was completely blown away at the quality, the heft, the weight, the sharpness, how well that they hold their edge. They're really an amazing tool to have in your kitchen.
Yeah, I agree. I have each one of them at home, and they have definitely changed my life. Especially, I just graduated from college, so I went from having super cheap knives to having this for just $3. I mean,
Fantastic.
For me, it was just an amazing experience.
It's a great start, good foundation.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the other knife that we're going to be bringing in soon. So the first thing we want to do when you're starting to do any prep in the kitchen is you want to get a good cutting board. And getting a good cutting board is really important, because you don't want the board to be, you want it to be made of a wood like acacia or maple or walnut, because it's hard enough so that it is a hardwood, but it's also soft enough that it's not going to do damage to the blade, or it's going to wear the blade slower than a harder wood or a harder material like like a plastic cutting board. So you have your cutting board, and what I did, I prepared a wet cloth. So this is one of our dishcloths we have here at Brandless, and what I like to do before starting is I lay down, open it up, and I lay down the dishcloth, and then I put the cutting board right on top. And what that does is it keeps it from moving around. It gives it more stability, and it doesn't slide around, and you're less likely to cut yourself because the cutting board's moving around. So that's a good first tip to know about that.
Before we continue, for anybody that just tuned in, please let us know that you're here. Pop up an emoji, let us know from where you're tuning in, and yeah, show us the love. And also, if you do have a favorite Brandless knife, please tell us what that knife is and why you love it so much. But, yeah,
Great.
let's continue.
All right, so then we're going to talk about a proper way of holding a knife, starting with the paring knife. And what we've done is on the handle of the knife, we have basically carved out a little bit of space so that when you put your thumb and your pointing finger there, you have a space that naturally holds your thumb and your finger, so that when you're cutting, your fingers are out of the way, but you also have a nice good grip. So some people hold the knife this way.
Right.
I prefer holding it this way. This is the proper way of holding a knife like this. And while we're talking about how to hold a knife, we'll go on to the chef's knives as well. It's the same thing. You want to hold it where your thumb is resting right here, and you have your pointing finger right there, and then the other fingers go underneath. They're away from the blade, and you actually have better leverage. One also nice thing about our knives is these have a full tang. So what that means is from the tip to the end of the handle, there's metal. So what that does is it gives this blade stability, and it gives it additional weight and balance, so that when you have it in your hand, it doesn't feel like it's top heavy, it doesn't feel like the handle is too heavy, it's right in the middle, and that's what you look for in a good knife.
Yeah, because usually the end of it sometimes like plastic,
Exactly.
or it's just all covered without
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. And then the other thing is they have riveted handles, and what the riveted handles do is it keeps the handles secure over many, many years of usage, and it's really a nice way and a very premium way of attaching a handle to a blade. So, so that's that. That's the chef's knife. And then same thing with the bread knife. You want to hold it, again, pinching right here, and keeping your fingers underneath. It keeps your fingers away from the blade, and you feel more sturdy with the knife.
Wow, revolutionized.
Okay. And then
Oh, it seems like we have a question from our community.
So we have two questions. One, do we sell cutting boards?
we don't sell cutting boards yet.
And someone asks, is marble bad on knives?
It is very bad. It is very bad. It's a very, very hard material, cutting down. And as we go in subsequent Facebook Live things, I'll go through how to keep the blade on the knife, and how to hone the knife, and eventually how to sharpen the knife. And we'll go through that, and I can show in those demos what it does to the blade. But it basically, when you have a knife, the knife basically, think of the blade like this. As you use it repeatedly on a hard surface, it basically just curves the edge over, and you get a burr. You get basically a dullness to the blade, and it's really difficult, depending on the longer you use it, to get that edge back, either through honing or to take metal off of the blade through sharpening. So.
And does plastic do something similar,
or? Plastic and wood are preferences for people. I prefer wood. Plastic, what I found is it does a little bit more. It's a little bit harder on the knives, depending on also the plastic, the type of plastic. But for me, a wood, like an acacia wood cutting board, is really perfect for cutting on.
Good to know.
Okay. And then, let's see, we're going to do some cutting.
Yeah.
So let's start. Did you have something you wanted to say?
One more question about, are bamboo cutting boards okay to use?
Yeah, bamboo
From
cutting
Patricia.
boards.
From
Yeah,
Patricia.
they're actually pretty hard as well. They are a good sustainable wood, but again, it's a preference thing. It will be a little bit harder on your blade than a wood like this, or a maple, or a walnut, but it's definitely a good alternative for cutting board material.
You know, honestly, I can't believe that these knives are only $3.
I know, it's amazing.
They're amazing quality, and I know that we passed the chef's knife, passed Epicurious's tomato test.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So, what's the tomato test?
The tomato test basically is, can the blade go through it's just the weight of the blade cutting through the tomato. It's not putting any effort, not putting any pressure. It's just that the sharpness of the blade can cut through the tomato.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to know. Okay,
Right.
yes, let's continue. So mushrooms first?
Yeah, let's start with the mushroom first. So by holding the knife like this, the first thing you want to do is you want to remove the stem. So what I typically do, you can either do it on the cutting board just like that, or you can cut it that way. If you have to be a little bit more comfortable with the knife if you want to do it that way, but
I'm
I
good
would
with
start
cutting
off.
it this way.
Okay. And then what's nice about these knives is, like if you saw it, the blades, how they have ground them out, how they sharpen them, it makes the vegetables and everything kind of move away, so they're not stuck to the blade. So as you cut down, they just kind of fall off to the side. And that's actually another trick, Helene. I know you wanted me to talk about that. Just keeping your fingers underneath, tucking them underneath. I don't know if you can. So if you think about, you want the blade to not be able to just basically be up against your fingernails.
Oh, right up against, okay.
And just cut straight down. Just tuck them
So we have someone,
Yeah.
Daisha, asking, I sharpen my knives. How often is too much?
It really depends on how much you use the knives. So one thing, it depends on, are you using a honing steel or you're actually using a sharpening stone or a sharpening machine? Because every time you sharpen, you're taking metal off of the blade, and you really only want to do that when you've tried honing the blade with a honing steel and you weren't able to get the edge back. If you're able to get the edge back with honing it every time you use it or every time you take the blade out, you should be fine, and it'll extend the life of the blade. If you basically sharpen it every single time you use it, it's going to shorten the life of the blade, and you're going to be taking way too much material off of the blade when you do that.
Good questions.
How's that going?
Like that.
Yeah, if you can have your fingers come up even more, like upright.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Wow, this
So that
stuff
was-
is all
Ooh,
new to me.
mushrooms.
I know nothing about knives and how to cut. But I see. Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna be
Awesome.
cooking something
That
with
was great.
mushrooms tonight.
And that's the other thing is, if you are timid about about using a knife and want more practice, you can go and buy mushrooms or buy even potatoes, like a bag of potatoes. Wash them ahead of time because you're going to eat them after. But just start cutting, chopping the things up, and getting comfortable with the knife. See what it can do. See how sharp it is, and then at the end you can toss them in olive oil, salt, and pepper, and just put them in the oven and cook them. And then it's dinner, or you can use it as a side or whatever. But it's an inexpensive way of learning and teaching yourself. Also looking online and looking at how other people use their knives. Of getting more comfortable with cutting, because I know a lot of people are afraid of using knives and cutting knives, so
Yeah.
it's a good trick.
Yeah. No, that is a good trick. Thanks for letting me know, because I'll definitely be doing that.
We have another question?
Oh, we have another question.
So onto the bread knife. Someone asked, how do I sharpen the bread knife?
So
And do you sharpen these differently, going from one to the next?
So there are a bread knife like this. You can use the back. As you can see here, there's the scallop side that you can see, and then on this side, it's just straight. So some people will take a honing steel and only do the back of the blade to help get the edge back on that. It's a little bit more difficult on blades like this, where they have the more pointed or teeth on the blades. There are manufacturers that make sharpening machines and sharpening tools specifically for serrated blades, and they're out there. I've never used one, but I know that they have them. But that's a good trick. That's a good thing to look for.
Awesome.
There's another question?
Oh, another
Yeah,
question.
does Brandless sell a sharpening steel?
We do not sell a sharpening steel yet.
Oh my gosh. These are like the best
Not
answers to
I
every
know.
question,
This is
right?
fantastic.
And so Patricia's asking about our knives. I know that they come with a cardboard sheath.
Yes.
She mentioned that. We'll walk through that at some point.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
later.
Great questions.
Okay.
Okay.
On to the next one.
Sure. So we can go on to, well, actually, let's do the bread. So one of the things for a bread knife and a trick on cutting bread, I know if you've cut like a fresh loaf of bread, you know that when you start to cut into it, you'll have little bits of crumb kind of flying off in every direction. A friend of mine taught me a long time ago, if you actually turn the bread over and use the back side and you start to cut, you'll actually notice there's almost no crumbs. And it's a good trick.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that one was free. That didn't even cost you $3. So, and what's great about this bread knife also is it's not only great for bread, for soft bread, but also hard, crusty bread. But it's also an amazing slicer. So if you have a large roast, because of the scalloped edge, it actually will carve into a large like brisket or pot roast or something like that really, really well, and very, very easy. So it's a really good utility knife as well.
Awesome.
And now we can go into, we have another question.
So we have a question from Karen that says, what is the best assortment of knives I should buy if I'm beginning to cook seriously?
I would say what we have laid out are the knives you need. So you need a chef's knife, you need a paring knife, and you need a bread knife. And then for as far as eating and serving and entertaining, you need the steak knives. And steak, again, they're not just for steak. They can be used for any protein, for vegetables. And just imagine anything that you can cut up when you're eating for your guests. And again, for $3, they're an amazing, amazing deal.
Nice. So it's actually very rare that you need like the typical knives that they give out, like the butter knife.
Well, butter knives is great for butter or for something if you were having eggs or something that's very, very soft.
Okay,
But
I
for
see.
anything you want to cut through, I definitely
the
would
best.
suggest using the steak knives.
Okay, good to know.
And last, we're going to try the onion.
Ooh.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, onions are always hard for me. Okay, chef's knife here.
Oh, I just thought, you know what? We're going to start crying. This is going to be
Sad
interesting.
day.
Okay, let's see who cries first. So what I like to do, what I like to do is cut the knife in half. So I'll put the root side away from me. So this is the root side. There you go.
Okay.
That's the root side, and you just want to cut it right down the
Right.
middle.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
And then when you have it, now you have a nice stable place to work. And that's what you really want to do when you're cutting something and it's round and it doesn't have a flat surface. You want to create a flat surface. So when you're cutting with a knife, you want to create a flat surface, or cutting with an onion, you want to create the flat surface. Next, what I'll do is I'll cut this part off, and then you can peel. And actually, you can use the paring knife to help you peel, which is why you need the paring knife as well.
Okay. Maybe not anymore. That was...
Oh, you got it. That's
Okay,
perfect.
cool.
You got this, Sophie.
I got this.
Perfect.
We have a comment from Kevin that says, this is a very informative presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Oh, you know what? I was told I wanted to say hello to a friend of mine named Steak Knife. That's his actual nickname that we gave him. So, hello, Steak Knife.
We have time. I want to know why. Okay.
Okay, so now you have the flat surface here, you have the root end here.
Right.
Perfect. Now what you want to do is you want to start here and you want to go down and just cut down on the onion about 1/4 inch
Okay.
between. Good. And what you want to do is keep your fingers like this. You don't want them
right.
splayed out. You want to keep them up. That's
Always
perfect.
up.
Always up. Good. Good.
That's so interesting. Only half of it? You just... Okay.
And you can use like a slicing motion too, if you're so that you're not.
Oh, okay. So more like that.
Sure. Perfect.
Not crying.
Perfect. Wait, I'm not crying yet. Okay.
Not yet.
So then next, holding the top,
Okay.
you want to put your fingers up here, out of the way, and then you want to come in a little bit more than halfway.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You don't have to push. You should be letting the blade do most of the work. You just
Okay.
want to like saw back and forth.
Okay.
You're getting there. Good. That should be good.
Okay.
All right, and then the last part is you should want to come straight down. And what I like to do is have my finger here so that it's kind of guiding the blade,
Okay.
and then just come straight down. Awesome. Look at that.
Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
And now you have
That is so
knives.
cool.
I mean, onions.
Are you crying?
I'm almost there.
I'm
I can feel
pretty
it. I can feel the sting. I can feel the sting. So that's the chef's knife. And I think we addressed all of the knives. Oh, we have a couple of tips that I wanted to talk about.
Yes. Love hacks. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
And so
Cleanup
what's
is
not?
necessary.
What's that?
I said cleanup is necessary.
Cleanup is necessary. Is there more questions?
There is a question. Peter, can you demonstrate how to hone a knife? And not just sharpen one? Maybe next time?
Yeah, I think next time.
Okay, next time.
That's next time. We'll definitely put it on the list of things we're going to do. So, what's
Yeah,
nice?
I'm starting to feel the tears.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Just don't touch the eyes.
So this is rosemary, and one of the things about a woody herb like this is you want to release the. You can smell it, but when one of the nice things about it is if you're going to throw in a whole sprig of rosemary or thyme or oregano, if you take the back of the chef's knife and you just kind of bang on the outside, you're going to release the oils, and it's going to be easier for that flavor and for that the oils to be put into whatever you're cooking, whether it's a vinaigrette or if it's a roast or if it's a saute.
What's your favorite food with rosemary?
Pork.
Pork?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love
Nice.
pork and rosemary. It's so good. And
Also, just want to make sure that for anybody that just tuned in, just pop up an emoji, let us know from where you're tuning in, and then also tell us of all of our assortment of knives, which one you love the most and why. We love to hear from you, so.
are there any more questions? I'm going to go on
Oh, yeah.
to kind of care and washing.
I think we have some questions about care, but I would just go into that.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
So after you're done, prepping and your knives are dirty, what I would do is, and what you should do, is hand wash the blades. So when you're washing the blades, and let's just say this is the side of your inside your sink, or if it's inside the sink, or if it's on your countertop, and this is a sponge that's a nice soapy sponge. What I like to do, just so that there's no risk for me cutting myself, and even though I have a lot of experience with knives, I still worry about that, is to clean the blade with a nice hot soapy sponge with a lot of water, and just cleaning it inside the sink or on the countertop. Same thing with the handle. And by doing this on here, you're not at risk of slipping if you're kind of washing it in midair. You want to put it on the nice surface and wash it that way. Next thing, after you rinse it off, I like to dry the knife right away. So what that does is, it basically, you're just extending the life of the knife. I don't like having my knives in my dish drain, and do not, under any circumstances, put your knife in the dishwasher. It is a really bad, it's bad for your knife, and it's also bad for your dishwasher. If you drop your knife in your dishwasher, you can puncture the tub, and then your dishwasher will leak. But it bangs up the blade. It causes you to sharpen the blade longer and more when you throw it in the dishwasher. So hand wash hand dry and then put away. So, and what do you do when you put your blade away? So we have this.
Oh, yes.
There are things out on the market like this right here where it goes in a drawer and you just put the blade in, and it protects the blade, it protects the knife, and it protects you, so that when you go in the drawer, they're all organized, they're all separated, and they don't, you're not fishing around with your hands for the blade. Another thing, and this is actually comes with your knives when you buy them from Brandless. This has a cardboard sheath, and it's not going to last forever, but it's a good something that you can use right away. They sell plastic versions of this in the market. You can buy those as well, and it'll help extend the life of your blade.
That's awesome. I'll have to get one of those.
Yeah,
I've never even seen one. I've always seen like the big ones.
Yeah, it's nice because they have
Yeah.
a place for the smaller blades and also for the larger blades.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. That covered storage, sheath, and holder. Any more questions?
Yeah, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we do. From Hallie on Instagram, says, what's the best way to keep your knives a long time? Is it to hand wash them?
Absolutely. Hand wash. Don't put them in the dishwasher. Hand wash, dry, and then put them away. Put a sheath on them or put them into some sort of a knife block or a knife holder, and that will definitely extend the life of your knives.
Yeah. Thank goodness I didn't have a dishwasher, because if not, I probably would have done it wrong. So.
And a lot of people do. A lot of people do, but it just,
Yeah.
it's everybody does it, but it definitely will help you. And my biggest fear, and this was through someone else's personal experience, they dropped their knife and it was just a paring knife and it punctured a hole in their dishwasher. So
Oh, that sucks. They're so expensive
no
too.
bueno.
Yeah. I actually had a question about avocados. How to like properly. I know there's like a couple of techniques.
Avocado.
I know. I just thought about that
We're
right
gonna put
now.
this on the list of the next time we do this.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely a good one. That's definitely comes up.
Yeah.
We like throwing you curveballs, Peter.
You'd like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next time, you know what's really funny? We should
We'll be
just
more
do this in
prepared.
a grocery store or somewhere where we can just basically pull from all the different areas, and then we can answer everybody's question. You alluded to this before, and I can show them now. Can I show them now?
Well, we have one more question and then you can.
Okay.
What's the best way to sanitize your knives? You didn't get to that. And cutting board if it comes into contact with red meat, raw meat.
So definitely wash your cutting board in hot soapy water, and you can sanitize. There's dilutions of a small amount, a very, very small amount of bleach and hot water, or you can get, there are sanitizing, you can buy just a already made sanitizer in your grocery store that will also work. But those are two of the ones that are probably used the most. I know in restaurants they'll use an iodine solution, but if you use a bleach dilution, that will definitely help sanitize if you're using red meat or any other kind of thing where there might be cross-contamination poultry. There's definitely a risk of that as well.
Interesting. That's awesome. So is it time for the big surprise? The big ending?
Big ending.
Show us, Peter.
In a few days, hopefully in a few days, we're going to be launching the Brandless Santoku. And we're really excited about this because there are very few knives that we would add to this assortment to kind of extend it because we have such a great assortment. But this was one knife that was definitely, something that we've heard from customers that wanted. I personally wanted. I know a lot of other people at Brandless have wanted. So the Santoku, which is a Japanese style knife, has a shorter blade than the chef's knife, as you can see here. And it's a little bit more rounded off than the chef's knife. And then it has these little, they call them Cullens, or they call them hollow ground. They hollow ground. And what that does is it creates an air pocket along the blade. So when you're cutting vegetables or meat, it prevents them from sticking to the blade. So it's a nice knife. It's a great size. And it'd also be $3. So very excited about this. You'll see this. It's actually up on our website now, but you can't buy it. Hopefully in the next couple days, it'll be available to buy. So I hope you guys get them. I hope you guys get all of these knives.
Absolutely.
And keep sending questions.
Yeah. So what do you use that for?
This you can use pretty much the same as you use a chef's knife, but it's just a little bit smaller.
Okay.
It's great for vegetables. It's also great for meat. And if the job doesn't require the length of the chef's knife, you can definitely use the Santoku. This started in the last 10 years, has become such a very popular knife in the United States that you see it everywhere. And a lot of chefs are using them. The whole Japanese style of knives is definitely a big trend right now. So
Nice.
I hope you like it. And when you do buy it, let us know what you think of it. And you can let me know directly how you think of it. And we have another question.
We have a final question.
Let's hear it.
When will your next demonstration be?
Whenever Helena schedules it.
Woo!
And do we know yet what it's gonna be about? I think we're still kind of
Grilling season? Awesome.
Yeah, I think we have to wait for that.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
okay, thank you guys so much.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you
for watching.
so much for joining us today. We are so excited that we get to share all of this with you. I have learned so much, and I hope that all of you have as well. And again, if you still have any comments, just please share them below, and I'm sure that Peter will come and answer all of them. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye from San Francisco.